everybody. It is 2022. This is my first episode of the new year. I'm super excited. Who did you guys kiss for New Year's Eve when the ball dropped? I kissed my dad. Not like that. Not like that. But my family was in town for New Year's Eve. They came to Austin, Texas, so I spent the holiday with them. Hopefully you guys didn't kiss your ex-boyfriends, but if you did, I don't know. I wish you luck for the new year. Today, I wanted to do a very special episode to kick it off with somebody who's very close to my heart. My sister, Erin. She is one of two sisters, the first sister that has made it to the podcast. And to start this off, there's really only one way to do it. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Yes. Hey, y'all. I'm Erin. I am Jenna is my sister because I'm older. I was here first. I'm 26. I live in Lakewood, Ohio. I've lived here for the past 4 years after college. And you may have seen me in some of Jenna's TikToks or Instagram. But yeah, I live here. I already said that.
Yeah. So Erin's a little nervous. We have to start off by saying that because Erin and I have really never had an actual conversation with each other. And I feel like anybody out there with siblings knows how that goes. When do you often have a serious conversation with your siblings? I can probably say this is likely our first. So she just did a little intro about herself, but basically I wanted to have her on the podcast.
I mean, it's all fun and games, wanting to be on a podcast until you're actually sitting in front of the camera and next to a microphone, sitting side by side in front of a fireplace.
I will say this is probably my nicest, podcast setup, though. If you guys are watching the YouTube video or you're seeing, the trailer or whatever on Instagram, it looks very professional. I might have to take some notes for when I get, my own studio. But I'm in Cleveland right now for the holidays, so I'm actually recording this before Christmas. It is Christmas Eve, the 23rd. But I'm recording this in advance because I want to make sure that I can spend time with my friends and family while I'm here. And on the list of things to do was record this podcast because Erin's been asking. So we tried to do it last night.
I mean, you've been asking too. We've been trying to plan this.
Okay, it's mutual.
But Jenna doesn't plan things ahead, and the last time we tried to do it, she left her purse at home, and then we were going to do it last night, but then it was so late because her flight came in later than it was supposed to because she lost her passport at the airport.
Yeah.
And we had too much wine last night, too. So this is now, the 10th time that we're trying to do this.
Well, we had a little bit of liquid courage because I told Erin that my dad, when he was on, was a little nervous. So we're like, oh, perfect. We'll just drink some wine beforehand. And then Erin's like, should we do a shot of Ruppelmans, too?
Yeah.
So we did a little sliver of it, and all of a sudden we forgot how to talk on a microphone. So we're here today, and that is kind of kicking off the first thing we were going to talk about, which was our similarities and differences. Number one difference being that Erin is a planner through and through, very organized, and I am not.
Jenna does everything very last minute on the fly, which is a really great quality to have. I wish I was like that, but I'm not wired like her.
I mean, it can be a really good thing, but then it can also be really bad because I lose all of my stuff. I'm never organized.
A little forgetful.
Yeah. I never write anything down. So I feel like I wish I was more organized like Erin in that sense. But I think there's pros and cons to each. So some other differences that we have.
Yeah. I mean, I stumble over my words sometimes, and Jenna is very well-spoken, I would say.
Oh, thanks. That wasn't even on our list of things we're going to talk about. That's just a little freebie compliment there.
Yeah.
When it comes to that as well, I would say that our style is very different. So growing up, Erin and I used to chase each other around the house. Literally,
we would fight.
Screaming at each other.
She would have my clothes or I would have her clothes, and we would run each other around the house until we got it back.
Yeah. And now that we're older and adults, we still fight over that. But I would say we're maybe a little bit more receptive to sharing.
Yeah.
Now that we're...
It's more so me asking, hey, what can I have of yours that you don't wear anymore? Because pretty much everything I have is from her because she She has the best style in the family. We all look up to her for that.
Thanks. Are you saying I have better style than Aunt Leslie?
Oh, no, she wins, of course.
Okay, yeah. I talked about our cool Aunt Leslie on a podcast before, and I know that she's going to listen to this episode, but I think the whole family looks up to Leslie for her style. So
she's just so chic and, like, effortless.
I know.
Athleisure.
Yeah, she really is. I remember we went to New York City with her when we were in high school, and she was telling us that athleisure was in. And we're like, what does that mean? And she's like, you should wear your tennis shoes, like your sneakers with your dress. And we're like, ew, no. And then I ended up wearing those, like, Egyptian-style sandals, I remember, and, like, a romper. And now I look back and I'm like, wow, she really is the style icon. I know, seriously. But other than that, Erin and I have a few other differences, too. But we are very much alike. Other differences was we did go to Kent State. We both went to the same college. So did our oldest sister, Sydney. But our college experiences were definitely different.
Yeah. I mean, sororities were a big thing at Kent. Sydney, she was in a co-ed honors fraternity that I ended up joining hers, and at one point there was 11 people. But it was cool because it was a small group, and Jenna went the sorority route where, what was it, like 600 sisters? And
no, not that many. I think
there were a lot of
like,
sisters, but
yeah.
It was funny because when she was in the sorority and talk about her sisters all the time and recruitment and all of these fun things that she was doing, like I would always like have a little jab like, well,
I'm your real sister.
I'm your real sister though. Like,
yeah, well, I think going to Kent, because both of my older sisters went there and my mom also went there. Well, our mom, I should say. Our mom also went there. I was determined to like have my own college experience, and a sorority was something that nobody else had done. So going to Kent, because I didn't necessarily want to go there, I was like, if I go to Kent, I want to join a sorority and do something that no one else has done. So that's another difference too. But one of the similarities is that we're both very much like leaders, I would say, because in both of our sororities and fraternities, we both took on leadership roles, and I think that's just a quality that
we just are very creative thinkers. I think that we get that from both mommy and daddy.
Yeah. And another thing that we share in common is that our parents require us to call them mommy and daddy.
Mommy and daddy.
We are 24 and 26. Sydney is 28. And we all still call them mommy and daddy, which I'm sure you may have heard if you listened to the episode with my dad. So that's another similarity.
Yeah.
As well as our creativity, we're both very artistic.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely paint a better dog than you probably could, but that's just my specialty.
For sure. Well, our mom was like an artist, kind of, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
She was in interior design, so I feel like we both kind of have a knack for that.
Interior design? You?
Oh.
No.
Yeah. True. I do have to
Jenna
admit,
looks up to us for interior design help.
Yeah, I do.
Like her apartment that she's redoing right now.
What do you think that
Very
I should
indecisive.
do with it? Oh.
Sorry.
What do you think that I should do with my apartment right now?
I don't know. I have to see it in person when we're there.
Okay. But she doesn't think that I should do all of the color that I'm trying to do. So that's another difference too. She's a little bit more like modest and classic.
Neutral, classics, vintage. I love like little antiques, thrifting.
Yeah. You're very much into like the collectibles, I would say.
Yeah, like unique things.
Mm-hmm. So that's another thing that we kind of have in common, but also don't really. I would say another thing we have in common is our humor, which I think that we both get from our dad.
Yeah. I think we're both pretty funny.
I think
we're always trying to be like the funniest person in the room, like in our when we're around friends.
Yeah, and whenever I'm home too.
But it's such dry humor.
Yeah. I would say it's more like dad humor, which we definitely get from
our dad.
From our dad.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, do you think that you're more like mommy or more like daddy? Oh my God, just to say that out loud, mommy and daddy, it sounds so like, it sounds so wrong.
I think I'm a lot like mommy in the sense that she's very classic, family-oriented, loves traditions, and is artistic and makes, just like, is a person that makes you feel like good when things are chaotic. But I'm like daddy in the sense that he loves to adventure and travel, and he's a people person, and I'm like that too.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't really know what qualities I have.
I don't know
with
which one I'm
mommies.
more like, but I definitely look more like daddy.
I don't think so. I used to think that a lot, but I used to think that only because you were blonde. But now that we're older and we've grown into our faces, I feel like you have mommy's nose, which is so annoying.
Yeah.
Because I wish I had that. Like, literally, if I could change one thing about my face, it would be my nose. Sorry, not that I don't like my dad's nose, but I feel like my mom's would fit me a little bit better. And now that I'm older, I feel like I look like...
You can have mine.
Thanks. I feel like I look like daddy more. Just with brown hair. I have her complexion and, like, features, you know, coloring,
yeah.
but his
Yeah,
features.
I get very sunburned, and Jenna gets very tan, and yeah.
That is one of the qualities that I do like having, for sure.
One last thing that we're very similar is our taste of music.
Yeah.
We just did our Spotify Wrapped, the blended, what's it called?
I don't know. It's like when you pick somebody else on Spotify and then you combine your two most popular songs from the year and it creates its own playlist.
Yeah.
That's actually the only playlist I've been listening to for the past 2 weeks, ever since we made it.
Yeah, same. Our top artist was Olivia Rodrigo. I don't think that's very reflective of our actual music interest, though, but I think it was just like a girl boss year where we were listening to Olivia Rodrigo like all year.
Yeah, I think my number one most played song was actually Driver's License. I got really, really invested in the Olivia and Josh drama for whatever reason. I don't know, I guess I just didn't have anything else more exciting to be invested in. So Olivia was one of my top listens, but I would say overall our combined music taste was more like indie folk.
Indie folk, stomp and holler, slap your knee, strum a ukulele. We're very like soulful.
Yeah, and I would say that we have our oldest sister Sydney to thank for that.
Yeah.
Because this is a funny story. So in high school, we all shared the same cars all throughout high school. So whenever one of us would graduate and go to college, the car would stay with the girls who were in high school.
It was a Saturn, and it looked like a torpedo.
Oh my God, it was so embarrassing. And you would turn it on, and the engine was so loud that everybody in like the overflow parking lot would look at you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. We actually got that from our Aunt Wendy. So yeah. Shannon, if you're listening, that car
is the OG.
Yeah, is the OG. And then after that, we got a Honda Civic. Yes.
Yeah. But in the Saturn, you know, you could only listen to the music you liked if it was on a burned CD. Because it was so old, there was no aux to plug it in or Bluetooth at the time.
Oh gosh, there was definitely no Bluetooth. That car was from like the 80s or 70s.
So we had quite the collection of CDs in that car. And they were actually all Sydney's. I don't think me and Jenna ever burned our own.
No.
Well, I did because I used to host 8th grade parties in the basement, and
God.
I would burn my own mixes.
Yeah, you would play Just Dance with your friends in the basement. I remember actually in high school, Erin had this one party in the basement, which this is really random, but houses in Texas don't have basements, which I thought was really, really weird because a lot of my high school memories were in our basement in Ohio. And one of those was Erin hosted this party, and they got like a giant thing of glow sticks, and they had like a glow stick dance party in the basement. And at the time I was young, so I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I was like, oh my God, it's like a grown-up party.
It was like a rave down there, and we were totally sober, and I think we were seniors or juniors.
Well, that's okay. I mean,
which is fine, but
looking back on it though, so odd.
It's so fun. So there were a couple of CDs that we just listened to on repeat. Like driving into the school in the mornings, we had the radio, and then we had this one particular CD, which I forget what it's called.
I think it's called Folkin' Around. Actually, I'm positive it's called that.
Sydney called it Folkin' Around with a Sharpie marker. And it's just, it's the best CD because every time you play it, it's like you know exactly what song is coming up next. And we just learned all the words to it, and it was like the one CD that we played on all of our road trips and like visiting friends in colleges. Like, that was the one CD.
So when we got rid of the Saturn too, I took that CD with me when we took it to our next car, which was the Honda Civic, And in high school, Erin was 3 grades above me, right? So, like, when I was a freshman, you were a senior? I'm pretty sure. Because then when I was a freshman at Kent, Erin was a senior. So, like, growing up, I mean, we used to, not that we used to, like, fight, but we weren't, like, really the best of friends.
Yeah.
And then Erin went to college.
I wasn't the nicest older sister to Jenna sometimes.
No. She definitely wasn't. I always wanted to be Erin's friend. I was always trying to, like, be in her little world. She never wanted me to.
No, but it went both ways though, because you did things growing up after me, like you always did the one thing that like I didn't do. Like we were both on homecoming court. Which this is just one example. Like I was on homecoming court, Jenna was on homecoming court, and Jenna won up because she was what was it, princess or runner up?
Oh my god. Yeah,
it was just like everything that I did, Jenna did it better. So there's always been a little bit of like, I am jealous sometimes.
I have literally never heard her say those words to me.
I know.
Ever.
This is so weird because we've never like.
Well, I guess I never really thought
like
about it.
Like self-induced therapy right now.
Yeah, a little bit. And our parents are gonna listen to this one and be like, "Oh, you girls."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, our girls are just being so sweet
you
to
girls
each other.
Are having so
I guess
so
I
much
never
fun.
really saw it like that though, because I always did everything that my sisters did. Like growing up, Erin and I worked at Mally's together. We were both cheerleaders. We were both in drama club. That was also another thing that Sydney inspired us to do because she was really good in like theater. She did the plays and musicals, and that kind of got us involved. And I never looked at it as me like one-upping them. It was just me doing the things that they did because I wanted to be like them. So I guess I never really realized from like your perspective what that felt like. Which I guess kind of goes into our next topic, which is about, so we just talked about our similarities and differences, and I think one of our biggest differences, especially more recently, was kind of what we did after college and our experience after graduating and just becoming young adults. So for me, like I graduated in May 2020 during COVID, obviously peak quarantine. And I didn't get like a graduation ceremony or anything. I was searching for a job, eventually landed the job at TikTok, and I moved to Texas. And this was all just like very sporadic within very like fast. 2 months. Yeah. Life just like hit me like a storm. I just graduated and all of a sudden I was just an adult. And then Erin had a very different experience.
Yeah, so I graduated Kent in 2017, and then almost right after graduation, I was looking for an apartment in Lakewood with 2 girls, and I didn't have a job yet before I signed, and everything with life that happens after college is very fast. Like, I signed an apartment, I bought a car, and then I got a job and kind of did things backwards. But I decided to stay in Cleveland area, but Lakewood is very young and like a great place to move to, you know, like living in Cleveland. It's very neighborhoody and kind of a mix of like families and young professionals. So I knew I wanted to stay in Cleveland. I didn't have this desire to move out of state, which I think a lot of like younger 20-somethings kind of do now. I see a lot of people doing that, and just watched 20-somethings. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, 20-something on Netflix.
On Netflix, where they moved to Austin and kind of try out the city. But I was working in marketing, hospitality, tourism, special events, trade shows, that kind of world of work, very creative, hands-on.
I feel like you really liked that job
in the office. Too. Really loved that job. And actually, the last project that I had with that job was hosting watch parties for The Bachelor.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Episodes when Cleveland was hosting Peter, The Bachelor, in Cleveland for a round of dates. So, because of where I was working, Destination Cleveland, we were kind of helping them promote The Bachelor and all of those dates in the city, promoting Cleveland on national television. So once that episode aired on The Bachelor, we had watch parties for clients in Chicago and Washington, D.C., And that was probably February 2020, and was kind of the last project that I had with them before COVID.
I feel like that's when things started picking up too, that you were really getting into your job that you loved, because you were able to like plan events and I remember you were decorating the events too. You were just always texting in our family group chat, really excited about the things that you got to do and places you got to travel.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just like a halt to it because of COVID.
Yeah. Yeah. So for a couple of years, I was really happy in that work and living in Lakewood and doing all of those things. And then with COVID hitting, we were furloughed from that company starting in March. And if you're not familiar with the term furlough, it's not fully laid off. It's kind of like, this is a temporary hold. Like, we might bring you back, but we might not. But you're going to get unemployment during that time. So,
constant state of limbo, basically.
Yeah, it was a constant state of like, I'm not sure if I'm going to get called back. But at this time was when, Jenna was going viral on TikTok and got the call from LA to work for TikTok, and I had just lost my job. And it was just kind of funny looking back on it now, because like I felt like I was in such a time of like, man, I lost my job, and then Jenna's like getting her dream job during a pandemic. Like, we kind of joke, only Jenna could do this. Like, only Jenna could get her dream job during COVID, a major pandemic.
Because you lost your job and you felt like you were, like, your life was now taking a turn, and then you were watching me kind of get everything that, like, I had been hoping for. How did that impact you? And, like, you just mentioned before, which I've never heard you say, kind of like that sense of jealousy. I guess, like, how did that make you feel? Especially because there were a lot of people in the same situation. Like, a lot of friends were losing jobs, or vice versa. They were getting promoted, or they were getting new jobs. They were moving to new cities. So I guess when you're going through something and you're comparing yourself to where someone else is at, especially like your own sister who's a little bit younger, like how did that make you feel? Which is so weird, because I guess I'm just asking you like how it made you feel, but I've truly never known. I guess I just never considered that it would be something hard to kind of watch.
I mean, it was like I was fully supporting you with your successes, getting like the job right out of college, and you were on TV. What was that one thing that you were?
It was for Access Hollywood. They did like a storyline about doing like the viral TikTok resume and then getting the job. And it was when I had just gotten to Austin that I did like the interview. Yeah.
It was just like one thing after another, which people started asking me like, oh my gosh, like Jenna's doing this, like, oh my gosh, Jenna, is she really getting that job? And it was just constant questions of her like, yeah, like I think she's actually getting it. And at the same time, I was starting to pursue my paintings full time, which Jenna like encouraged me to join TikTok in the first place. Yeah. I thought it was just dances and stuff, which I clearly can't do. Like our younger cousin Shannon knows.
We can do line dances though. We can 100% do line dances. If you asked us to throw out punch right now, we could do it. You want to do it? 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. We remember line dances to a T, but when it comes to TikTok dances, we leave that to our cousin Shannon.
Yeah. So I kind of had my own thing going, and it was very new for me to pursue painting full time because I wasn't working. I was kind of exploring painting dogs full time, and that kind of blew up where I was getting just different support than you were, because mine was a little bit, I guess at the time felt a little bit more temporary, but yours was like your career.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because mine was like a full-time corporate job, and yours was... So Erin paints custom pet portraits. She has an Instagram if you want to check her out. I posted about her before, but it's EL Paintings, right? Mm-hmm. And she used to paint like in college. She would do stuff for friends, always gift people personal, gifts for like their birthday or Christmas, whatever. And then during COVID, kind of took it up as part of like a part-time job because you were on unemployment and you just had a lot of free time.
Yeah. And then I had a expendable free time. Like every day we were quarantining. That was like my main thing. Like I would wake up, make a cup of coffee, and paint dogs, and it was awesome. And I didn't realize at the time how special that 9-month time frame was going to be, because when you're in the situation, like you're thinking, man, am I gonna get called back to my job? What's happening next? But now looking back on it, like I'm so grateful that I was unemployed for that long, to have that opportunity to explore something that was just a hobby that kind of turned into like more than what it was.
At that time too, you went kind of viral on TikTok.
Yeah.
And that really helped as well. Kind of like, I think that during COVID was when you realized, oh my gosh, wow, I could actually do this full time, because you had so many people from around the world now who were coming to you. Whereas before it was really just kind of word of mouth around like Cleveland, our hometown. Yeah. And then TikTok came about, and I'm like, Erin, you need to start posting TikToks of your paintings, because you can, if you don't get your job back, if you end up losing your job and you're no longer furloughed, this could be like replacing it. And it's something that you like to do, so like why not?
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience too, and it was like so much fun. I'd never really realized how much people love their dogs, and also the same people appreciate artwork. And when you put the two together, it's just, people cry. Like I love getting the videos when people send me, they're giving it as a gift, and the person opening it is just like in tears. That makes me feel so awesome. And I love that I'm able to give my talent to somebody like that. So yeah, I mean, just like the ultimate difference is like Jenna and I we're very different in the route of work that we kind of went after college, and just in COVID in general, and living alone during COVID too was just a challenge in itself. Like COVID up here in Cleveland was different than moving to Texas and having a roommate down there.
Yeah, for sure. So living alone, and obviously during COVID, what were some things that you did, like other than painting, obviously that took up a lot of your time, but what were some things that you did like alone or with friends during that time so you didn't feel so lonely? Because I had a roommate when I first moved to Texas, and I feel like that really helped me. I can't imagine being alone in my own apartment and just like having to make comfort around that. So what were some things you did?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I love living by myself. I've lived by myself for 2 years. So I had lived by myself for a year before COVID and quarantine happened. In general, I think everybody should live by themselves at least once, if you can afford to. The best advice I received from my coworker, she told me, you'll never have a time in your life where you have the opportunity to live just by yourself. Like, you have your whole life to find somebody to live with, to find a partner, get married. When you're single, take advantage of that. And if you can afford to live by yourself, then do it, because there's no better time to live by yourself than now, and to learn about yourself and how you like to live and your own living habits. I've loved living by myself. Yeah, so during COVID, I mean, we had to be a little bit creative, obviously, with not going out to bars per usual and doing things outdoors. But, you know, I got into some puzzling.
Our whole family was really into puzzles. That's something that I don't have the time and patience for.
I had like a puzzle, like small group of people come over one night, and we just like puzzled. And I really got into going on walks, going to the lake, just spending time like out in a park, or taking my hammock out somewhere. I started getting into reading. It was kind of just like the little things to like keep each day like different.
Yeah. That's what I say all the time too, is like you can be in a routine. You can be the type of person that loves routine. I personally am not like that. And but I agree that there are a lot of people who have find like a lot of comfort in doing the same things. But I think if you're going on a walk every day, or you're going to a coffee shop every day, and you're going at the same time, so you are living this routine, you can at least change it up. So you're going to a different place to get coffee. You're going on a different place to walk, or you're doing a different puzzle, or like there's different ways that you can change your routine and keep your life interesting, so you don't feel like you're living the same day over and over again, especially during COVID, when it felt like we were living in a literal like simulation of the same day repeated and repeated.
Yeah. I mean, I like spending time with myself. Yeah. And I think there's comfort in spending time alone. There's a difference between feeling lonely and being alone. And I think during quarantine, living by myself and spending time with myself, I learned how to find comfort in just like spending time with myself. And so I would recommend, like, if you can live by yourself for at least a year and try it. But as far as like meeting up with friends during this time, like, it was just a very transitional year. A lot of my friends were kind of settling down or moving out of the area since they had been living in Lakewood for a while, or getting engaged. Like, I have a lot of friends, very good friends, that are in significant like relationships at this point. But it was really those like day-to-day people that I could just call, that like live like in my neighborhood, that would be up for doing anything. And one of those people was my friend Taylor. She lived like 10 minutes away in Tremont. And she was just very easy to call up and do anything with, because we also had the same like work time frame too. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are nurses. It's kind of hard to plan with their schedules sometimes. So between having friends that are like prioritizing relationships or are just like on different schedules, those people I have to plan in advance with. So
yeah. Well, speaking of the people that are in relationships, I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, is like you get to your mid-20s and people start settling down, getting engaged, and people that you used to be super close with are now, you're spending less time with them. And so especially during a period of life where you don't get to see people, what are some ways that like your friendships have kind of evolved and changed as you're still single and some of your friends are now like married or engaged? Like, would you say that your friendships changed at all, or the way that you connect with them has changed?
I don't think those friendships have changed at all. It's just we're more intentional with planning in advance to make the time to see each other. It's like we pick up where we leave off. Those are the friends that things don't change no matter if they're dating somebody or not. Like the friendship is so strong that it doesn't matter that they're spending time with a boyfriend. But it kind of, on the other side of having friends that are single, like those are kind of the people that I'm trying to find, like who's in my same stage of life right now, because I'm single, and there's a lot of things that I like to do that some of my friends don't like to do, which is totally fine.
I feel like there's a lot of friends that it doesn't matter how much time passes or like whether they get into a relationship or not. If they're your true friend, you'll always make time to see each other, or whether that's like call them or FaceTime. But getting back to like those single friends that you would go to during quarantine, you talked about Taylor. I know that she was one of your closest friends, and especially during that time. So if you want to like talk about her and some of your guys' memories.
Yeah. So Taylor is my best friend. She during COVID, she was my go-to person,
especially on weekdays.
Taylor was kind of like my go-to weekday person. We were friends in high school. We didn't get as close until it was after college when we were living in Cleveland. So Taylor had this like nature of always up for anything, especially on weekdays. We did a road trip in September of 2020, which was still a little frowned upon traveling at the time, but we kind of did it off grid and road tripped around Utah, just us two, and stayed in a tent up in Zion National Park and just like spent time outdoors and hiking. And she is awesome and made me realize like that is what I want to do more of this. But she's very similar to Jenna in that she's very, very messy and unorganized. I was so nervous to travel with her for the first time.
I remember getting in her car one time in Cleveland, and there was just a giant pile of stuff in the back, and she's like, oh, don't worry about it, and she just like pushes it aside. So yeah. I feel like her and I were very alike in the fact that maybe like a little unorganized, but always the person that you can call upon to like have a good time with you, to take you out of like your headspace, I guess.
Yeah, she was the best for that. Taylor, unfortunately, was in a car accident earlier this year in May. So losing her as my kind of go-to best friend weekday person that was like always there no matter what, was always like, screw boys, let's go out, just us two. Losing her was very like life-changing. And it was hard to put this podcast together. Like we went through an outline to like kind of go through the thoughts of what we wanted to talk about. And when I think about my life in the last year, it's kind of like there's life before Taylor and then there's like life before or after Taylor. And it's like I'm a kind of a different person in the way that I do things and live because of her, because this one day in May happened. But you know, I think this message around like fun on weekdays is kind of what I wanted to ultimately get to, is that at the time of Taylor passing, I went down to Austin. It was a couple weeks later that it was my birthday, May 29th, that needed some sister time and like needed some pick-me-up. And it's hard to celebrate your birthday in a year, like just 2 weeks after losing your best friend. So it was like, kind of feel guilty for doing that, but it's like she wouldn't have wanted me to stay home or be sad or anything like that. So
Erin was really hesitant. I literally remember getting the text about Taylor and I was like, oh my God, like my heart literally sank. I didn't even know what to do. And I feel like at that point too, it's really hard as like a sister or as a friend. I don't know like the heartache and like grief that someone goes through, and I've never had someone close to me lose someone like that. So I also didn't really know how to be supportive. And I feel like one of the ways that I kind of like assimilated to was being like, well, you can come spend time with me in Austin, like it'll be fun, just sister time, get your mind off of things, or like not even get your mind off of things, but like do something that she would be happy to see you doing. And so Erin came for my birthday, and I remember around that time, it was the end of May, and I had been tossing around the idea of doing a podcast. Like it was truly just speculation in the air. Like it was never really an intention to follow through with it. And I remember telling Erin the name of it.
Yeah, well, we were sitting on the couch.
Yeah.
And you were showing me, or it was in your TikTok bio first, having fun on weekdays.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
it was.
You're like, I think this is going to be the title, Fun on Weekdays. And just because of the timing of it and the person that she was to me, it was like, oh my God, I love the message behind like having fun on weekdays, because when you lose a person that is so close to you that you talk to every day, like pretty much every hour, it really like changes your whole perspective on life. And it is so important to have gratitude every day and, you know, do things that are fun outside of your work, like on weekdays. Like you need to live life to the fullest because death can happen at any point in time to anybody. You have no idea what tomorrow could bring. And I think just like that's really like why I'm so behind the message of fun on weekdays, and why I'm like I just love it. I love what Jenna is doing with the podcast and bringing people together and bringing like girls together to meet each other to have fun on weekdays, because I am kind of looking for like friends again, because
oh my god, why am I gonna cry? Oh my god, I've never cried. It's weird to hear your sister talk about something that you do when you like don't have serious conversations, I guess. And like I know she's been struggling the past year with Taylor, but I guess we've never really like sat down and actually talked about it. So like I can imagine what she's going through, but she's never actually told me. And I feel like, I mean, I had the idea of fun on weekdays before like Taylor passed, I guess. Like I always lived by that motto of just like, you know, every day you should do something fun, never live in routine. But then I think, and I've talked about this before, but when Erin lost Taylor, I was like, oh, now it has like extra meaning, I guess, because it was like, this really does relate to the fact that you never know when it could be your last day. And I think the whole purpose behind it, when I first started it, it was not necessarily what it is now. And I think now my like meaning is to bring people together so they can find like that community of people that make them feel comforted, that they can have fun with, that they can live life to the fullest with. And I think it's incredibly cool that like I'm able to connect my sister with some of the girls through like my Facebook page, because you've met up with girls in Lakewood, and
yeah,
Erin, I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but Erin's been kind of struggling to like find those girls that feel like,
well, like
close friends.
The same, like who she was she loved to travel and do spontaneous things and hike, and she was like the outdoorsy friend that I looked up to for, you know, like being my pioneer to go hiking with or to go road trip with.
She would always be down for any adventure. And I feel like it's really not that common to find people that are always up for a spontaneous trip. But I do think that the community of like girls that I've built, and guys too, I mean, there's a lot of people that listen to my podcast, but I think that the main community of people that follow and listen to me and listen to this podcast do have that mindset. So when I get them all together in a community, like on Facebook, and there's different city group me's for people to connect, I think it's a lot easier to connect with those people in person because you already know that you have something in common with them, which is just that like love for life and love for like enjoying your life. So you met girls in Lakewood.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me about that. How was that?
So I met a couple girls through a TikTok. It was actually a video Jenna posted. She was trying to set me up with boys.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
In the comments, there were some girls in the Cleveland area that were like, girl, like, let's meet up and be friends. Like, we don't need boys. And then there was like 4 others that kind of chimed in. And then one of them put us in a group message on Instagram and was like, hey, I hope this isn't weird, but I know we all kind of messaged on the TikTok video saying that we should meet up sometime, so like, what do you say? And we were all just like, yeah, like, how's next Wednesday? Like, let's go to Humble Wine Bar. And we just kind of made it happen, and it was just so cool to have done that in Cleveland, because that was the first time I did that here.
Yeah, I feel like you've always spontaneously met up with people that you don't know in maybe other
traveling.
cities. Yeah, but to do it in your own hometown, it is kind of like a different feeling because it's being spontaneous in your own
hometown.
Yeah, that you're very comfortable in, you know? So I feel like that's also another way to spice it up too. Spice it up. What's it? Why did I say that? You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like meeting new people in your city, you just truly never expect those people with the same mindset to live around you, because you're like, oh, well, I've never met them and I've lived here for this long. But there really truly are people out there, and I think that's kind of what my whole goal is to help people like get connected to them. Because I remember,
and it's not just like 20 something. It's like people who are in the same stage of life, and like helping people meet each other that way, because you really don't know what people have gone through, or their past relationships, or past losses. Like, you could be making somebody's day by just like introducing somebody new to a group like this.
Yeah, and I remember Erin texting me while she was going to it. She's like, oh my god, I'm meeting up with the girls from TikTok tonight. Like, I'm so nervous. And then she's texting me while she's there, and she's like, oh my god, they're so cool.
They're so awesome.
They're so fun and normal. Like, they're making me not want to move out of Lakewood, because I'm realizing that there's actually people here that I could be, like, very good friends with. And I feel like that's really cool for me to hear, because it gives purpose other than just, like, oh, go do something fun. Like, there's meaning behind it. If it helps create a friendship, like, that's what my goal is. So as my older sister, someone who listens to my podcast, maybe not necessarily all of the episodes, is it weird to hear me, like, try to give advice? And is there anything you've learned from me?
I think it's funny. I think it's funny when you just speak so profoundly, and I realize I need to enunciate my words better.
What do you mean profoundly?
Like, you speak so mature for being, how old are you, 24?
Yeah.
When I think about me at 24, that seems like forever ago.
It's weird to hear somebody who's younger than you that you know really well.
It's
like your sister.
Even you still have so much to learn. Like, but the girls that are listening to you, they're all pretty much like on the same, you know.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who are older than me that listen too. Yeah. And it's really weird in a sense, because I'm like, I have literally no credentials. I have no credentials to be giving anybody advice. But, like, for whatever reason, people still listen to me. I mean, you can take my advice or not. Some of it is pretty good. Some of it is just, like, absolute nonsense that I spew out into the world because I just love hearing my voice. Yeah. I think everybody loves to talk.
Yeah. I think you really love to talk.
Yeah, I definitely do. I love to perform. Always been like that.
Yeah.
Erin and I are always performing some type of, like, skit or something. Yeah.
Monologue.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so...
But, I mean, well, I did have something else to say.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
go ahead,
if I have one takeaway from all of your podcasts, it's that you constantly say to surround yourself with people who bring your energy up. Surround yourself with friends who don't drain you, that are not, you know...
It's never a battle of, like, whose struggle is worse.
It's not a competition, and it's not toxic. Like, surround yourself with good people who will support you no matter what. And
one of those people are your sisters. our mom and dad will love that little segment right there.
And just kind of going back to, you know, having experienced such tragic loss of a best friend, I guess my takeaway for this podcast, for anybody listening, is just to be mindful of, you never know what somebody might be going through, and just be kind to people. And that's all I have to say, really. And people experience grief in different ways, but if you do have a friend that has experienced loss, I mean, hopefully you haven't. Hopefully you don't experience that. But I mean, it is life. But just the best thing that you can do to support somebody in a situation like that is to just reach out and check in and say, hey, thinking of you. And just do something like, I remember the best thing was when I got a random Venmo for like $10 from this girl that said, go get yourself a coffee or a drink or ice cream, like, thinking of you. It's the little things like that that 100% like just make somebody's day a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I feel like too, because I'm in Erin's apartment right now, and this morning as I was getting ready to go get us smoothies, I was looking at her refrigerator, and I was like, wow, it's so nice to see that she has she has notes from her friends that are still pinned up on her refrigerator from people who like sent her flowers or sent her a note from either like when our grandmother passed or when Taylor passed. And they were just like the nicest notes. And I feel like those are the little things that go the farthest, because even me, I don't like, I truly don't really know how to like support someone who's going through that. And before we were going through this outline of talking about things that we wanted to bring up during the podcast, I told Erin one of the questions I wanted to ask her was what advice she has for anybody who is going through grief or like lost a friend or someone who's very close to them. And what you said was,
I said it's not advice for the person who is going through that experience of loss and grief, because everybody deals with it differently. I mean, the way that I grieve is going to the places that she went to, going to the bar that we went to, looking for little signs like of the wind blowing in a different direction, like that's her walking around.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no advice to give to somebody that is experiencing grief. They'll do it in their own way. But for those friends or sisters or family that are on the outside of that is the advice that I was trying to get across is just check in over time, because people kind of forget that somebody passes. But when you're the person who is actually grieving, it's not just like this one loss. It's like you think about them constantly every single day and have to have that reminder, or you remind yourself like this is my loss. Like,
it doesn't go away after a couple months.
It never
just because
goes away.
Yeah.
It's like you learn to carry it with you better over time, and it kind of comes in waves. Like there'll be times where I like want to celebrate her and like take her favorite shot or something, but then there's times where I'm driving in the car and our song comes on and it's like I'm bawling in tears. Like there's so many different stages of grief, and you don't really know that until you experience it firsthand.
That's good advice. I can tell Erin has been like really thinking through this, because I feel like you want to say the right things and like you want to leave a lasting impression for sure. So when we're talking about Taylor, I kind of want to like wrap things up and then talk about what you've been doing more recently. But I do want to end on like some positives of your experience with her, just being friends. Like, what were some of your guys' favorite things to do during the weekdays, since you said she was like your weekday friend that you would always go to?
Yeah. So she would come over all the time. I would make her dinner. We would light candles and like
have like an ambiance dinner.
We would literally have like a date with each other and just like do like stupid stuff. And it was always me cooking, because we didn't want to eat the food that she would cook. We would hang out on my porch all the time. I have a front porch off of my apartment. Just wine nights on the weekdays, that was pretty much a standard. And of course, going to our favorite bar, the Flying Monkey. She would always want to drag us out there. But she was the one always coming up with these random ideas. And I would just be like, yeah, sure. Like, do you know where that is? And she would like find it, like a abandoned path, like along a river that she wanted to go on. Like, I don't know how she found the things that she did, but like my favorite memories of her are just like the way that she lived and traveled and just made adventures for herself, and always tried to bring people along with her and like forced us out. Like I said, she was like a pioneer.
And in terms of like ways that you've dealt with her grief, because obviously like you said, it happens over time. It's like it happened in May. It happened in May, and it hasn't even been a full year. And so I feel like over time, obviously there's been different stages of that. And what are some ways that you have been able to like help yourself and still find pieces of gratitude even though you've lost something like so significant?
I think one thing, and I might tell the light bulb story.
Okay.
I think one thing that happens, or that has happened, is that I'm like, there's no way that she's just gone. Like, energy of somebody and spirits live on, and I think that is a new kind of perspective that I've had since May, just because I'm like, I can still feel her around when she's here. And so I just am trying to live the way that she did. And one of the experiences that I had, this might sound like voodoo to whoever doesn't.
I believe in it. I don't care if you think it's voodoo. I believe in spirits.
I believe like she is like somehow still here, like traveling through time and space and energy. And I spent a lot of time just connecting with all of her friends, people that I wasn't close with, like prior to losing her. And I also spent time with like people that just like were wanting to be there for me, like day after day, to support me through this grief. And it was one of these nights that my friend came over. He brought wine. We were just like trying to have good spirits. I think it might have actually been the night or 2 nights prior to the funeral that we were just kind of like talking about her, because I was going to be writing a speech, and kind of leading up to the funeral, just wanted to like have a decent night. And we're sitting out on the porch where Taylor and I used to hang out all the time. And it was when, like, I'm talking to my friend, we're playing Scrabble. And I had the exact letters to spell out her name on the board, which was weird. And he's like, oh, well, names don't count in Scrabble. And I'm like, oh, well, this name counts. Like, of course it does. So
who's he to make the rules?
I know. It was just like, name, whatever. So then as we're just like hanging out, playing Scrabble, drinking wine, whatever, I keep noticing like a little flicker in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, oh, I think one of my light bulbs is out. But it's like when you look, it's on, and you can't catch like which light bulb is it, because they're like Edison string lights.
Yeah. So specific. That's like a specific product name. If anybody wants to look up the string of light bulbs Erin has, it's an Edison light bulb.
So it's like this light keeps flickering. I'm like, which light bulb is it? And then finally, as like I catch it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's that one right there in the middle. So I kept my eyes on it, and at this point, I had started to talk about Taylor naturally, and then more so, the light bulb started to flicker in like an offbeat, weird way. Mm-hmm. And then just still kind of talking about her in this dog park bar she wanted to open. Like, this was her dream. The light bulb starts flickering faster. And I can't even make this up. Like, when I say she wanted to name this bar Canine Cantina.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
The light bulb, if anybody wants to go in on a business with me, let's open a dog park bar, Canine Cantina, so I can live on her honor and also paint dogs to decorate it.
Yeah, I think that you should totally do that. 100%.
Anyway, so I say Canine Cantina, and this light bulb is going crazy. And I like, at this point, I'm like, this is too weird. Like, I stopped talking. I'm like, look, this light bulb over here is like going off. And he turns to look, and the light bulb was off.
Oh my God.
He turns his head, looks back at me, and says, she must be here with us. The light bulb turned back on.
Oh my God. Okay.
And then I'm like, I was kind of speechless for a hot minute, and was like, I I can't even fathom what just happened there, but she's 100% here in that light bulb. So after he left, I went up and caressed the light bulb and talked to it.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
But I mean, that's just like, that was kind of a long story.
Yeah.
But,
can you imagine if the light bulb on your porch just started going off right now? Like, I truly do think that she probably is here. She's probably, like, watching us and laughing at you telling that story. Like, oh, she noticed. You know, Taylor, if you're here, if you're listening, if you're watching us.
Yeah.
Come hang out, girl.
But I mean, when it comes to, like, coping with that and, like, going back to your question, I think it's more so of, like, a heightened awareness of, like, before her, I would just have thought, oh, like, my light bulb is about to go out. But now that it's, like, after her, it's, like, there's meaning behind that. Like, she's here, or, like, it's kind of, like, looking for those little signs from that energy. And that, things like that happen, like, make you feel good and comforted to know that, like, their presence is still there.
Yeah, I feel that. Well, I don't feel that because I don't know what you're going through, but I can tell from my perspective that Erin has really tried to live a life where she, like, honors Taylor and her memory, and you can tell that the change in her perception of life is, like, very intentional. When you go on trips, you leave her stickers everywhere, or, like, you spend a lot of time with her mom, and, like, so you are still very connected to her, and I think that she would be really happy to see that you are carrying on her legacy. Oh my god, why am I gonna cry? Oh my god. So if there's one thing, like, the legacy that she has left, what do you think that would be? And this is in honor of Taylor Strauss, anybody listening. So you know the kind of person she was and the kind of friend that she was for my sister.
Yeah. You know, if I have to end this one way, it would only make sense to say, life's a garden, dig it. And that's a quote by Joe Dirt.
Is that her quote?
Yeah. Yeah. She kind of, like, took that quote and was like, no, that's my saying. Yeah, I mean, the legacy that she has left behind is to never stop adventuring and exploring. And all of her close friends, we all have felt that, and we know that. And traveling definitely heals, and, you know, I think everybody should go out in nature, and that's what she would want people to do.
That's really beautiful. Okay, so it's talking about traveling. So Erin has done something that I have never done, which is just traveling alone. I've never done it. I've always gone with somebody or gone to visit somebody, and I think that's something that's really commendable, especially when you are, like, a young woman, to have the courage to go and just pick up and do a trip completely alone. So Erin just recently went on, like, a very long trip. So you want to talk about it?
Of course.
Okay, let's get into it. So I think we said our piece. We, like, really honored her, and now we're gonna switch gears and just fun, uplifting.
It doesn't make me sad to talk about her. I wanted to honor her in that way and talk about all of those things. So the first solo semi trip that I did was in July. This was the first one prior to going on, like, the longer trip.
Right.
But basically, I was going to Chicago to visit with some friends for Lollapalooza, which is also related to Taylor because Cautious Clay was playing. I wanted to see him live because the last text message that I have from her is Wildfire by Cautious Clay. I'm wearing a necklace that Jenna got engraved for me, Melinda Maria jewelry.
Yeah. I have this necklace that says, mine says "Make It Happen," which is, like, the motto that I live by. And Erin's always liked everything that I have. And so then I was like, oh, when Taylor passed, she told me about how the last song she sent her in through text was Wildfire. And I was like, how sweet would it be?
How sweet is it?
I don't know that. What is that?
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
Oh, okay. Where I was going with that was I was like, how cute would it be? Like, you can carry that with you everywhere you go, and it's like taking a piece of Taylor. So I got one for her. So now we match, but hers has meaning to herself, which says Wildfire.
Mm-hmm.
And now that's become one of my favorite songs too. I actually went and listened to Cautious Clay, took a video of him singing Wildfire at ACL.
Yeah.
Erin. So,
yeah.
Back to your story, though. You went to Chicago.
Yeah. So the purpose of going to Chicago was to see that song live, and that would be like a healing moment. So I wanted to kind of make it a trip for myself around that, and I just found an Airbnb somewhere in Michigan. It was like a little RV on an inland lake, in I think it was Perrin Lake in Sturgis, Michigan. Where I just stayed there for a night driving through to Chicago and kind of just made that like a stopping point and, you know, have some like me time, like make a fire by myself, go kayaking.
To the normal eye, any single young woman would look at that Airbnb and be like, yes, this is a recipe for a literal horror movie where I'm going to get murdered. And Erin's like, ooh, fun. Like, I'm going to go there alone, completely alone. And there was... it was on the lake, right? There's like a dock, too?
Yes. There was a little dock that went out onto the lake. They had paddle boards and kayaks. And the only reason why I felt comfortable going there by myself for the first time, like traveling alone, was because the family lived in the house right next door that owns it.
Right.
So it was just like the best first solo experience because the host family was there. And in the morning after, they actually cooked me breakfast, like with their family. It was the cutest thing. And then I just like went on my way to Chicago, went to Lollapalooza, and then on the way back, stopped at the national park in Indiana, the Sand Dunes, because Taylor always collected national park maps. So that's kind of now my quest, is to keep collecting them for her. So I stopped there and did a hike, and then that Airbnb I stayed at in Michigan was a little not the best on the back end of the trip, but I mean overall that was the first time doing that, and I never thought that I would ever travel by myself. Like, I have some older girlfriends that like I look up to, and they're like, you should really like try solo travel, and I'm like, I don't know, but once trying it, like it's really enjoyable if you like spending time with yourself, but it kind of gets you out of your comfort zone to like plan for just you, and it's not for everybody, but if you're wanting to try it, definitely do.
I feel like even growing up, I would literally never in my life envision Erin going on a trip just completely alone, somewhere like blindly. I would never picture that, but that is one of the things that I can definitely see like a change in the person you are ever since like traveling with Taylor. And so more recently, you just did like a very long trip.
Yeah.
So what was that one? You went to like quite a few different places too.
Yeah. So, forgot to mention that I did get a new job.
Oh, right. In the midst of all of this, you got a new job.
In the midst of like everything happening in personal life, I did get a different 9-to-5 marketing job. So this summer, they kind of enforced a new work from home policy. And I think this was August, July, around that time, where it was just kind of like they were reevaluating whether we were going to be remote every 2 weeks. And I started thinking, you know, like, what if I was remote, but just not from Cleveland? Right. And because just like going through this change of life and having a different perspective of life is too short. I've lived in Cleveland my whole life. Like, I think I want to try somewhere new, especially now because Taylor always wanted to. We always talked about Denver. So I started getting this itch to try somewhere different, and just kind of asked my boss if I could do a remote travel trip while working still, Eastern time zone hours. It didn't change anything really. But then once I said yes, like it was a lot of logistical planning to actually make it happen, which because of the planner that I am, I had a whole spreadsheet of where I was staying for each night and where I was going to be working remote and all of the things in between. But really the only thing that I planned out actually was the road trip part. So I knew I wanted to do Denver. I knew I wanted to do Scottsdale. My company had an office in Scottsdale I wanted to check out. And then kind of making it happen in the in-between, I'm like, why not do a road trip from Denver to Scottsdale? It's not that far. This is something Taylor would do. And looking at the route, it went through Utah, which was on more of like the eastern side of Utah through Arches National Park. And that planning that whole trip was like a lot of nights of like, what makes sense? What can I actually afford? How many days do I need a rental car? How many nights do I stay here or there? And I had 2 friends coming out to meet me in Denver and Scottsdale along the way too, which definitely helped with Airbnb costs. But ultimately it was just to get out of Cleveland for a while and try out 2 different cities that I was interested in. And I know you've like said this multiple times to all your listeners is if you're not ready to just fully move somewhere, then you could try it out for a couple weeks or a month or sublease or Airbnb. So that's really what it was for me. And most of the time I was by myself, except for the in-between road trip part where my friend Casey came out. And then I had another friend, Mary, meet me in Scottsdale. But the majority of it was I planned everything. They were just kind of along for the ride. And when I was by myself, I was going out to meet new people and putting myself out there and just making the most of being in a new city while still trying to work 9 to 5.
That is something that I've talked about is like there's not everybody is the type of impulsive person that can just bite the bullet and send it and move somewhere new. There's people that is the type of person that I am, but you are the type of person that like you want to try it out. You want to think about all of the pros and cons of everything. And I think that is a really great idea if your job allows it and if you have the money to be able to kind of go and test out a place so you can stay there for a longer term other than just a weekend. You can get a better sense of the city and figure out if you can actually see yourself moving there. So I think that was actually really good for you because you've been having conversation for the past year of where do I want to go? I feel like I've outgrown Lakewood. I'm comfortable here. It's a good comfortable, but now I'm like ready for a new, kind of like chapter of your life. And so that kind of leads us to present day. So you just got back from that trip.
Yeah. So I met so many great people on that trip. A lot of them were from Facebook groups that I put myself out there and just said, hey, I'm going to be in the area. Who wants to meet up for brunch? Which is exactly what like the Fun on Weekdays Facebook group could be used for. And
if you're not a part of it too, just look up Fun on Weekdays podcast on Facebook and join it. There's like 6,000 people in it right now, and there's group meets for every single city. So if you're ever traveling and you're looking for someone to hang out with, literally the perfect way to utilize it. Or if you're looking for a roommate, you're looking for advice, perfect way.
Yeah. So, I'm still very much in touch with everybody that I met, and they're all like really great friends of mine. And I think now like I'm back in Cleveland. We had Thanksgiving. I was wrapping up paintings for the holidays. It's been very fast pace of like getting back into like working in the office and painting and the holidays and family and also trying to see friends. But now like COVID is also very bad again. And so I'm kind of focusing like my time on figuring out what is coming for me in 2022. I definitely have more time and motivation for painting now too. I think doing the trip and coming back and gaining more followers and interest like from like
TikTok.
Just word of mouth TikTok of paintings, I'm starting to like realize, wow, I miss painting from 2020. Like that was such a great me that I want to get back to. So I'm trying to like get more creative in that way, and you know, I am still single after the trip as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of figuring it out, where I want to be, what I want to be doing.
Yeah. I think one of the key takeaways from this entire episode is that it's completely okay to stay in your hometown or stay close to home or like live somewhere for a long term while you figure out like who you are, who you want to be, what you see for your future. We are very much different in that aspect, but I feel like we're also very alike in the way that what we're doing with our life, we want to have purpose. And I feel like it just takes a little bit longer for you to make that jump. And so who knows what 2022 will bring you. Hopefully a boyfriend, you guys. So Erin is still single. The men in Lakewood are not cutting it out. So I've decided to take matters into my own hands. I read a statistic that most people go on their first date on a weekday. Typically people are saving the weekends for like their girls' weekend. So I thought, what better way to start off the year than to ask my followers, after listening to this episode, if you think that you have a brother, a cousin, a friend, maybe an ex-boyfriend, no, I'm just kidding, that would be a good fit for my sister. I am going to screen men that I think would be a good candidate for my sister.
Men, not boys.
Men, you guys, not guys, not boys.
Men.
So we opened a little link that we created on Canva, and the segment is going to be called Fun on Weekdays. How cute is that? So basically I'm going to host like a little DIY bachelorette for my sister, and I'm going to find her a boyfriend in 2022. So we made a Google form. You can submit somebody that you think would be a good candidate for my sister. I'm going to pick the top either like 5 to 10 guys, and then I'm going to host a little speed dating, and we're going to do it on the podcast so y'all can listen to it and we can all decide who we think is like the best person for Erin. And then we'll see where it goes. I don't know, you guys. We got a cousin's wedding in March. Maybe he'll be the date for it. But nonetheless, regardless of where they live, I'm going to bring Erin and this boy together.
Somehow, in some way.
And this might be an empty promise. I'm not entirely sure. We'll see where it goes. But I want to do it sometime around February, around like Valentine's Day. So I'm going to put the link in my bio. You can submit anybody. You'll have like a couple of weeks to submit. Let's say like 2.5 weeks. I'll probably put a deadline on there. Not entirely sure yet. Gotta fine tune the details. Like we said, I'm not
Per
really
usual.
Yeah, like we said, I'm not really somebody who likes to, really plan things. This was a spur of the moment idea, and I'm just gonna run with it because I think it could be good. So if you have somebody, submit them, and then we'll see. Maybe they'll be my brother-in-law at some point. Who knows?
Okay,
Who knows?
Okay. Yeah, we'll see about that.
Okay, and then the last thing to end my episode, it would not be Fun on Weekdays podcast if I didn't ask my guest, Erin, what would be her fun activity idea of people to do. But this time, I want to ask her what Taylor would want our listeners to do.
Okay. If you can, adopt a dog this week. No, but really don't adopt a dog unless you're ready to do that. But I think something fun to do that, she always wanted to do was go to either a dog park bar or go to a dog shelter and just like play with the dogs.
Oh, that's cute. I love that. And it's perfect time too, because I'm thinking about getting a dog this upcoming year. So maybe this is like my time. Who knows?
Might be.
Oh gosh, just another sporadic purchase I can make. All right, well guys, that is the end of the episode. Hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we made you laugh, maybe we made you cry. But regardless, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time Erin's on the pod.
Yep. I'll be a little bit more polished next time.
All right. Bye everyone. See you next Tuesday.
Bye. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, I do.
You know what that stands for?
Oh, okay. Talk to you guys next Tuesday.